all. This is Dr. Mobeen Syed from DrBeen.com. Welcome to one more show. So, hopefully, this is our last chit chat on this channel. I'm going to add the link to the chit chat on the other channel. So, today I'm doing a simultaneous broadcast, but tomorrow I'll go to the other one. So, please keep this link with you, and tomorrow we'll do this. Plus, the next step is that we would start doing Rumble and Odyssey together as well. So Texas Meg says, decisions, where to go tonight? Stay here. Both are right now broadcasting live. You can be on any. Um, and both have their, what is that? Their comments I can see both over here. So you can participate as normal from either channel. Alquin says, Rumble does not have a good turtle. Uh, okay. I know. John says I just subscribed on the other channel. Thank you very much. And to be honest to everyone, this is not a uh, trick to get you to subscribe to one more channel. I am actually honestly trying to remove the chit chats from this channel, not remove, but move them to the other channel, so these both channels can have their own um, themes. This channel, the current YouTube channel, would continue to have COVID discussions and non-COVID discussion, medical discussions, and more lecture-like discussions. And the other channel will become more of us KoolBeens discussing things together. And I foresee, if you like to stay with me and if we continue doing it, I told my wife, I said, I want to do it for the rest of my life. This is it. Every day, 1 day, 1 hour, I'm doing chit chats with KoolBeens. That's my life now. So hopefully this would become a show that would continue. So that is the second channel. Now, is this the YouTube second channel or Rumble or Odyssey? That still is in the discussion. So maybe we'll have one more transition to a different platform, but this is the first transition or split between the two platforms. So no trick here, no um, attempt to um, do any games with the subscriptions. Just wanted to separate the two videos, and there is a reason for that. uh, the chit chats are usually long. When you are in them, as you are right now, you enjoy them, you participate, you talk with each other, you talk with me, and it's a fun time. But for anyone who is watching it afterwards, it is a long discussion, and then there are sections are missing and they do not know what is discussed where, so it's not really always very interesting for others. So when the chit chat is present in the main channel and people don't watch the chit chat, the algorithm punishes the whole channel, thinking the channel is dying, people are not interested in the channel, and it just reduces the visibility of the channel. So they both are different kind of mediums, so I wanted to separate them out. So if you are all up to it, we are going to be now for the rest of our days together in our cafe, Cool Bean Cafe. If you look at that name, that is Cool Beans Cafe Live. That is a name that you all actually voted on, and patrons voted on, and we finalized it. That is the same name in Rumble as well, and I have the same name for Odyssey as well. Actually, I haven't gotten the Odyssey channel. I should get that. So we will correct. So Doug, you're very correct. If we move on to the other platforms, we'll probably become um, censorship free. I also really want to set up another channel, which is censor free medical discussions only. That's it. It has nothing else but the medical lectures, medical talks, whoever it is. And even I was thinking when about that platform, that when I'll put it together, It could be even those that I disagree with, but if they are talking medicine and they believe that what they are saying is a message that needs to be moved forward, I will have that platform, have them on that platform as well. So that is my ideal state, but this is our first step. So today it is funny that we are on both. How many folks are on the new one? So very good. Alexander says, is it possible that diabetes in long COVID is caused by having over a year of inactivity? Inactivity is a bit forced by post exertion malaise. Absolutely. So that's what the authors say. They say we do not know why it happens. One possibility is the virus causing damage. Other possibility is the autoimmunity causing damage. Third possibility is some other part of the body is getting damaged, but there is inflammation in the system, and that inflammation is causing damage to pancreas. And then they say socioeconomic statuses, and I would add to that, they said socioeconomic and environment, and that would be stress and sedentary lifestyle and hormonal state, body state, diet. There are so many factors. Janet says locals is amazing for posting videos, I think. Yes, and I have started on Substack. So as you have trusted me, loved me, stayed with me, I keep trying to figure out how do I offer you more value so that this becomes my work. This is it. This becomes the work. This is my livelihood. So I was thinking of putting together, there has been a discussion that, or a comment by many people to say, can I have a summary of the video in a written place somewhere? So I started a Substack as well, in which I posted two articles so far. One article is for free, and the other article I made it for premium or paid. But I'm hoping that I would actually have the summary present on Substack or on drbeen.com if the censor allows us. And then we'll probably make that subscription based, and that is how I can earn some livelihood as well from all of this work and just continue. This becomes your new, it becomes your show, your medical show. So it's not Dr. Oz show or Dr. X show. This is really KoolBeens show. I'm pretty excited about it. Yes, absolutely. Okay, more questions. Bambi, how are you doing? How is UK doing? Hey, Doug Gross, how are you? So Kini says, I went to Rumble. Was I in the wrong place? So we did not start live on Rumble yet. Here is why. This particular platform that I'm using is called Streamyard. Streamyard is very good to um, broadcast to Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and some other such platforms. And they can curate the comments, and I can click on the comments and show them to you and then talk about it. StreamYard does not have any feature to connect with Rumble or with Odyssey. So that is something I have to write the plugins and work on that. So it is a little longer project. Although these discussions get copied over, for example, this chit chat, although today's chit chat is mostly just really chit chat, but once it gets copied over, then I can remove it from here and it can stay on the other channel. We'll see. We'll figure it out. Kini says StreamYard. Yes, StreamYard, one word. It's a good program. So MGW says you should get your own mobile app that allows everyone to join and chat like Zoom, but that's just yours, so no sense. Here's the problem. Could there be more personal thing than drbeen.com? and DrBeen.com got censored. And the weird thing is that the person who made the complaint which resulted in the censorship, that person is not a medical person. He's those armchair um, experts sitting in some basement brooding about their life and trying to see how do I make it difficult for others. It is that person. I actually know that person. So that person complained to our one of the partners for DrBeen.com. And that partner became all upset and they could not find really good mistakes. They were really upset about one thing, which I think we can all know which thing. And they just kept finding excuses to cancel. And they'll say, we are canceling you because of X. And we'll say, but you're wrong. This X, what we said is correct. And someday I'll actually show you all of that thread. We're still in the process. Then they would say, okay, fine, forget about that. How about this? We are canceling you for this. And we'll go back, and our lawyers would go back and say, but you are wrong here as well. They say, okay, fine, fine. How about this? So they're just doing how about this for last 6 months. Um, the point is, if I make an app, let's say for iOS, you know that Apple censors in app content. They censor Odyssey for searching over, for example, ivermectin. So the best thing will be that I create a platform. So be on Rumble and Odyssey, that is one easier. The second is to start our own platform that is hosted somewhere where we ask the host about their censorship or their policies. Once we know that the host will not block us, then we build a platform like YouTube or Rumble or others, but only medical education. And if it is medical education, doesn't matter, it is allopathic medicine or Ayurvedic medicine or Chinese medicine or nutritional medicine or physiotherapy or meditation, all those things that YouTube says you cannot say will help with health. You know that YouTube says meditation, you can't talk about meditation or prayers helping. It is interesting that mindfulness is a very common helpful thing, which is kind of a meditation or a prayer. I mean, the body state and psychological state is very similar to a prayer. So, if mindfulness can help, why can a prayer not help? So, all such weird censorships, I think we can remove them by creating that platform. And I actually had this debate with myself to say, if I create that platform, then would that mean that my policies will be, and when I say I, this is this KoolBeens group, our policies will be that whatever we think is normal should be talked and nothing else. What about those that I don't agree with? So my thought was, as long as it is a medical talk, who is talking, what are they saying? Community can start deciding if it is good or bad by doing, like or not like, instead of the platform trying to suppress or stop. So Texas Mag, they have a general policy for medical misinformation that you cannot say that prayers can help. I'll show it to you. You'll be surprised that this happens too in the world. So let's see. Just 1 second. I'm using DuckDuckGo, and sometimes I get challenged to find what I'm looking for. Okay, so check this out. to your question, Texas, this is COVID-19 medical misinformation policy, YouTube, right? And I'm going to look for prayer. Prayer. If you're posting content, don't post content on YouTube if it includes any of the following: treatment misinformation, content that encourages the use of home remedies, prayer, or rituals in place of medical treatment. I would really, at some point, I'm chomping at the bit that at some point I could sit down with some executives from YouTube to say, dudes, the CDC has been wrong so many times. Have you ever made a policy that would cover that misinformation? So, prayers, no, you cannot pray, or you cannot create a video that would say that please pray. Content that, and as far as I know, again, don't paint me religious, but as far as I know, that even when people die, even when they get hurt, prayers still help them, prayers help their family members, prayers have a great value. Content that claims that there is guaranteed cure for COVID-19, content that recommends the use of ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine for the treatment of COVID-19, they actually have it by name. I think that they should add content that says remdesivir works for COVID-19, or content that says vaccines work for COVID-19, considering their current efficacy and side effects. But they would not put that there. Claims that hydroxychloroquine is an effective treatment, categorical claims that ivermectin is an effective treatment. So, how many ways they're going to put the word ivermectin? You want to see this? Ivermectin. Look, one, two, three, four, five. They wrote five clauses to cover ivermectin. So, and they wrote treatment misinformation, prevention or prophylaxis misinformation, diagnostic misinformation, transmission misinformation, social distancing and self isolation. They are funny. This is what they did. So then there is their example. You cannot deny that COVID 19 exists. Claims that people have not died from COVID 19. So, meaning if people just talk about that, they are just not allowed to talk about that. And I was kind of getting surprised that nowadays with this Russia-Ukraine war, there was someone who was screaming on TV that Russia is censoring their people and they're not letting them say this and they're not letting them say that. And I, not going into the war and the controversy of that whole topic or good or bad part over there, we what are we doing here? What is YouTube doing here? Google doing here? Are they not censoring? Doug, you're gonna get my channel banned or something? So Zainul Amin says, what shall we call your new platform? So I am hoping, let's not give away um, the trade secret, but should be a nice name. And really, whatever medical help somebody thinks that they are providing, uh, we should have it. There are so many ways to help people. Sometimes just a word of a consoling word, a soft, polite sentence can help a patient a lot. Hmm. Texas says Alcuin for the bill. Alcuin, what did you do? I want to read. Alexander says IVM did solve permanently. John, this is funny. How about praying for ivermectin? Yep, that would get your channel blocked twice. Today what we're doing is really, if the algorithm did not understand that we were actually figuring out how YouTube does not like and how we will be compliant to what YouTube wants, if algorithm didn't understand that, it's going to say there are too many ivermectin words today and block us. Frisco Coupon says, what effect does COVID have on mitochondria? What, if any, does poor functioning mitochondria contribute to diabetes? So, number one, we have done this discussion in the past. When there is a very interesting behavior, and that is that inside the cell, when there are inflammatory markers or inflammatory molecules are present, they can cause mitochondrial functional disruption. And I've done a complete video about that, an hour long. When that mitochondrial function is disrupted, the respiratory chain or the electron chain, it's really not the electron chain, but it is the final ATP production. Some steps of those get blocked because certain enzymes get phosphorylated or inactivated. So once the mitochondria isn't working correctly, then we don't produce correctly the ATP. The cell does not respire correctly. In addition to that, melatonin production is reduced, and so many other systems get disrupted. And then it is interesting that when you give melatonin, it not only restores the mitochondrial functions, it also causes, when the mitochondrial function restores and starts making ATP and starts respiring correctly, then the inflammatory state is reduced as well. Beautiful function. Now, this second, what, if any, does poor functioning mitochondria contribute to diabetes? So, if the mitochondria is part of the um, peripheral cells or for beta cells. If it is part of the beta cell, then the beta cell would just not function. If it is part of the other cells, which are functioning poorly because of poor mitochondria, remember mitochondria is the generator of energy for the cell, then the cell would not function correctly. And when the cell, especially let's say immune system cells, are not functioning correctly, then we have a problem. So mitochondria is, you can think of mitochondria as the liver of the cell. I know it is a weird analysis, and medical community would listen to that and say, "Why did Mobeen say that?" But just like liver is our um, source of energy, it makes energy, it detoxifies us, and so on. Mitochondria is our source of energy within a cell. Skyfrog, how are you doing? Paul, thank you very much for 91%. Which channel? That might be a big one. George Bowman says, channel name Bean, party of 557K. Yes. What? What is this? Always learning. Thank you. Discuss studies to put messenger RNA vaccine into food. That, do we have such studies? Denise, how are you doing? Maggie, this is what YouTube does not want us to talk about. We are talking all those things that would bring the Dr. Bean account down. So Dr. Bean is trying to figure out, how do I promote these accounts and Dr. Bean so that I can earn from them. And today we are doing everything that can bring the house down. So the Niru Raja Paksha says, Sir, suppose there are 1 trillion viruses in the world. Can our immune system identify all the trillion viruses? What I mean is memory B cells present in our body that can identify all pathogens? No. Memory B cells does not have that. We don't have all memory B cells against everything. However, we can still handle the pathogens. You just saw that for SARS-CoV-2 we could not handle on the very in a very good way because it was new for us, but we still handled it. The reason for that is, and I've done a video about this, the reason is, let's say this is a pathogen, correct? So the pathogen is made up of, imagine this is a house, it's a building, and it is made up of bricks, right? So here is a building slightly tilted for some reason, and it is made up of bricks. And the bricks have various shapes. And let's say that the bricks, there is this brick, which is this shape, then there is this shape brick, then there is a brick that has this shape, then there may be a brick that has this shape. I'm just making up shapes, right? So what happens is our body does not need to, and it cannot remember a complete pathogen. So what it does is it can remember 6 or 7 bricks in a row, or it can bind to 6 or 7 bricks in one row. And that is like if you have a letter that is written, document that is written, you would see that, for example, the word and will appear again and again in the document. So you don't have to find a defense for the whole document. You can just say, you know what, wherever you see and, attack. So our body has learned to capture smaller pieces of a pathogen and then try to figure out if we should attack them or not. The reason that we should attack them or not discussion occurs in our immune system is because our own body is made up of similar structures, also made up of small bricks, amino acids. So if we would attack a pathogen and the pattern there, maybe this pattern exists in our body tissues as well. And if you attack the pathogen, then you would attack the body too. This is actually what is happening in the autoimmunity with even SARS-CoV-2 for clotting or for myocarditis. So how does body then figure out what is the pathogen and what is body, the self? When this is a complex system, but in a simpler way, when a baby cell is born, B cell or T cell, not memory, B cell or T cell normal, when it is born, this cell is sent for training. So we give it a school bag and we say, please go get yourself trained in, if it is a T cell, then it goes to thymus for training. Thymus is a gland over here, right? So it goes into thymus, and inside the thymus, there are cells that show this little baby student cell patterns that are prevalent in our body. And they cannot show all the patterns, they can show just main surface patterns. This is why when there is an infection and some cells break down, and from within the cell DNA comes out, our immune system attacks this DNA and we develop anti DNA antibodies or anti RNA antibodies. Why? Because we cannot actually show everything in our cells. I mean, thymus is a tiny place. How can we show all the patterns of the whole body? So we just show the primary main patterns through this little thing. If this guy reacts to those patterns and tries to attack them or become activated, then we kill him because he's going to cause autoimmunity. But if this little guy, number one, shakes hand with the immune system and says, I will work with you. Number two, does not attack our self tissue, then we let it out of the thymus and say, you are now trained, go live somewhere. And if a pathogen appears and you don't, if you see a tissue with the pattern we showed you, do not attack it. But if you see a tissue that doesn't have that pattern, then attack that. And this is how our body actually responds. It doesn't need to have memory cells. Then there are more complex phenomena where the cell might actually come in contact with our body tissue and think that I should attack it, but does not get enough support from the immune system to say go. And so it would become anergic. Anergic, Anergic. Anergic is kind of, you can call it exhausted, although exhausted is a separate term, but it would become non-responding to that antigen. So I'm trying to put together in a few minutes the whole immunology, because immunology is the answer to this question. So good question, and I hope a tiny bit of discussion. Happy Valley says decaf beans, softer channel, lots of eyes. Yes. JMT says that TLR2 can, yeah, so we have various pattern recognition receptors, toll like receptors, pattern recognitions, damage recognition, and so on. Critical Thought says 38 on KoolBeens Cafe Live. First time I was able to like the same video twice. Thank you very much, but don't like it twice on the same channel, on this channel and that channel. Thank you. Product of Jack says, based on the overall data that you have sifted through, do you have an idea as to what may happen next in terms of the COVID situation? And do you think that authorities will ever admit fault? So, looks like the second part is rhetorical. First part is more of a conjecture. I think we are done with the COVID. We just have to protect now some folks who might fall ill severely to it, those at risk, but we're done with COVID. So that is one. So when what would happen next is um, long COVID, unfortunately, and the vaccine injuries. Now, will the authorities ever admit fault? I don't think so. Neither do will they admit fault. For me, it is actually surprising. I have not forgotten. So KoolBeens who are here with me every day, they know this. I almost mention this every time. I still cannot forget the chuckle from Walensky, CDC's director, saying, who knew that we would have vaccine efficacy drop? Who knew that the antibodies wane? And she was amused about it. She was laughing and saying that is the reason that the communications or the decisions were not correct. And at this time, they were busy making posts about horse pay. You're not a horse and you're not a cow. They were talking with CNN to do these anti-ivermectin discussions. They were busy writing letters to say if you gave ivermectin, then this would happen or that. They were reaching out to AMA. They were reaching out to pharmaceutical pharmacies, and so on. So they were very busy doing that, but they were not busy figuring out if page 9 of a undergrad immunology book says antibodies can wane, or if their algorithm was counting the death counts incorrectly, or they did not understand correctly the mask should work or mask should not work, or what kind of mask should be there and what kind of mask should not be there, or they did not know if the surfaces should be cleaned or surfaces should not be cleaned. They did not know if vitamin D could be important or not important. They just did not have all of that. They were just focused on ivermectin. They were an army that whose whole mission was destroy ivermectin, promote vaccine. That's what it seems to me. I don't know what were they thinking. So would they admit that as a fault? Never. Maybe 70, 80 years after that, hey, during the pandemic we did following things and we were wrong. By that time we would have been gone. DeWord says, as a doctor, would you recommend the Janssen vaccine or say it is safe? So I can't give an advice as a doctor. I can talk about this from an educational point of view. That Janssen, to me, least efficacious and a lot of side effects. So I'm not a fan of Janssen. Flowers in her hair says that laugh she gave was awful. Yes, and that laugh told you that she actually did not know this. She was laughing like who knew, because she actually did not know this. And what amazed me was that she has an army of researchers, doctors whose total job is this. We collect taxes to give them to do this job. And she didn't know it. And she was laughing about it. That was an example of ignorance is a bliss. And just so that people don't think that I'm just being hard on her, because I sometimes receive these kind of messages. So let me actually show you. Um, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna put up Kindle to show you what I mean. So I'm gonna share my screen. First, let me show you this, and then I'll show you the book's title. Look at this. Do you see this little brownish uh, graph chart here, the colors here? This is actually day 0, 7, 14, 21. And what they're talking about is the immune system becoming active. So see if at the top here it says antigen recognition. So an antigen comes in over here, you can see the cells are now binding with the antigen, and then they're binding with the naive T lymphocyte and B lymphocyte. Then these cells become active, then they start making antibodies, then antibody and effector T cell. So if you see here, antigen elimination, contraction, or homeostasis, this is a normal function of immune system ramping down. And this is called homeostasis because homeostasis means our body likes to stay in a state of normalcy. So we became abnormal when we were fighting with the pathogen, and then we decided to go back to normal. And that normalcy means killing off the cells that were active, making some copies as memory cells, removing antibodies from the system, and waning the immunity. And it is here. Then look at this, surviving memory cells. And then you can actually read it in their text as well, that they say that this antibody waning sometimes starts at 4 months, which for some surprise to everyone during the pandemic, it seemed like, wow, 4 months. Who knew? But this book actually talks about that. Now, this book, if I go to its cover, look at this. This is Cellular and Molecular Immunology by Abul K. Abbas, Andrew H. Lightman, and Shiv Pillai. I believe Abul K. Abbas is here in San Francisco, and they are teachers, and this is their book. And this is an undergrad book, meaning no offense to the authors. This is a great book. I love it. It is great for postgrad as well. But it is an undergrad. This is for medical students and nursing students to read this. And in there, if you look at this bottom here, it says 3%, page 9 of 587. This is page 9 of 587, undergrad book, showing as a basic fundamental of immune system that immunity wanes. He's calling it contraction, homeostasis. Now, if you overlay that chuckle to say, who knew antibodies wane, you would see the actual level of ignorance, in my opinion. DDS says, do you take crypto to Alexander Kocher? DDS, you can send me crypto anytime. Skyfrog says, isn't that science? YouTube might ban this. Yes, today I'm doing everything in the name of creating a new channel. I'm doing everything to get ourselves banned. So, anyone who is here, please realize that we are creating another channel where the chit chats from tomorrow will move to that. The channel link is this. This is not a way to get you to subscribe to another channel. I just want to move chit chats to the other one. And I explained it in the beginning of this chat for why. So there is a question from a person's name that I would have difficulty reading. So is it true that inactivated virus vaccine is safer than mRNA vaccine in terms of side effects? It is true that the inactivated virus vaccine side effects I have heard to be less, but that is really not scientific. The reason is most of the countries that have inactivated virus vaccine, or most of the companies, they have not published those huge reports that we so much love to pick on and go through as in US. So word of mouth, or whatever one or two sentences here or there, they do say that their side effects are less. However, the question is efficacy. I wish we had that beautifully compiled data as we have here. So Theo Augustine says, have you come across anyone who had their food allergy reversed after mRNA vaccination? I had my egg allergy reversed after. That's very interesting. I've heard those in comments once more as well, but not directly from a person, friend, or patient. So Danilo says, is there a possibility of having broadly neutralizing antibodies for SARS-CoV-2 like HIV? Can't we develop vaccines which would result in producing broadly neutralizing antibodies? So we actually were creating. Remember, I did a video about super antigen, which was really about the non mutating parts of the coronaviruses. And they had actually proved that it works very well for SARS-CoV-2 and for others too. And they did a in vivo experiment on, I believe, pigs. And the vaccine platform was so cheap that one vaccine dose could be made for under $1 or could become available for $1. And authors themselves also had a conjecture that this is such a cheap platform that nobody's going to pick it up. But they said, we are showing you the parts, the vaccine against the parts of the spikes that are not mutating or that are least mutating. So, yes, there are such vaccines. It's just that there is not enough attention on those things. I saw Nipa's comment here. It just ran away, the comment. Nipa, where is your comment? I just saw it here. So Nipa says, watching on KoolBeens Cafe Live, hit the like button there too. Yes, I am so curious to go see what happens there. Critical Thought says, I may have reversed my dairy sinus allergy after mega dosing with vitamin D. Not sure yet. That is possible. Nicolene says, KoolBeens Cafe Live. Thank you very much. Paul Borg, thank you very much. 52% is a high number. Art Doc says, I think that Cuba developed a more broadly acting vaccine for coronavirus with spike protein. It sounds like it is the best shot out there, in my opinion. Interesting. And from Art Doc, Meeple Art. So, Meeple Art, thank you very much for sending Australia stats. I will go over them and discuss them. Today, I wanted to have long COVID discussion. I want to make sure that at least one day in a week, we have a long COVID discussion, because that is the next big issue that needs to be handled. So ME says, another important subject no one talks about is about those with severe allergies and vaccine reactions, like the Kansas woman. Yes, so I think that we have had these discussions, and I think that even healthcare authorities or the clinics or hospitals know that if somebody has allergies or had allergies in the past, allergic reactions, they should not take a vaccine. The question is, what is the alternative for them? That is what we're not talking about. So I want to show you my eyes. I have a slight irritation in them. Do you know what I was doing today? I was learning to use contacts. I've never used contacts. So the eye doctor's assistant was teaching me how to use contact, and I poked my eyes many times. So I was laughing. Meanwhile, in America says, how long would it realistically take to up vitamin D from sunlight? MCAS means I'm reacting to supplements, so this is my last option. Normal levels, so not above normal, but normal levels, if you're fully undressed and the sun's angle is correct, and you can just Google it, that what should be the right angle for the sun. It's not the right above you, but slightly um, acute angle, or from the other end, obtuse angle, but slightly angled. And the time would be 10-11 in the morning. 20 minutes to 30 minutes full body exposure gives you that day's RDA. So then you can extrapolate that, but please be careful that some area sun is intense, and 20-30 minutes can actually get you a sunburn. So there you have to reduce the duration. Number one. Number two, adding sunblocks can actually reduce the efficacy of sun's work, and then you have to probably increase it. So you can Google that, but that is the normal way of looking at it. Bambi says, still so many don't know COVID can lead to long COVID until they'll get it ill 2 years in. How do they manage to not know? Bambi, there are actually so many who do not know. I get my friends, families, I get so many times people say that I become very tired nowadays. I'm getting older. Even I thought that when I had COVID, But then I did not know I had COVID. This is folks who had COVID and recovered, or who were asymptomatic and now they have lethargy and that. And doctors are running labs on them, and even doctors are not suspecting that this may be that. They're calling, in some cases, they're calling them that you have Addison's. In other cases, they're calling them hormonal imbalances. In some cases, they're saying this is psychological. In some cases, they're saying, well, you just have a normal run of the mill chronic fatigue syndrome, or you have developed Lyme. And in some cases, they are just saying you have gotten some other autoimmune disease. In some cases, they're saying this is just with age, it happens. So there are all kind of excuses because patient and doctor are not connecting the dots. YouTube user, nice cat, looks like a Bengal as well, like my cats, can getting monthly IVIG, that how has antibodies to COVID, that now has antibodies to COVID, cause autoimmune issues. I also get COVID in January and March this year. Normally, IVIGs themselves get destroyed after some time, so they may cause an issue temporarily, and that would tell you that, hey man, this is bothering me, and then not take it. Bambi, what happened? Doc, you look amazing in eyeglasses, distinguished. No, but I wanted to have the contacts because I keep misplacing my glasses all the time. So, plus, I hate cleaning them all the time. So, I was digging in my eyes today. I don't know how my both eyes are in their place. Meeple Art says, uh, okay, so there is a personal discussion going on. So Mark Schaefer says, this is a good question. Is there a time after the vax when you can say you're so first 20, 30 minutes, if you don't get a reaction, then generally you're out of anaphylactic window. Although allergic reactions can occur within a day as well, but mostly it is immediate. So that is one. Second day to 14 days is a time where chronic pains or chest pains or leg pains or tummy pains or headaches should be monitored because they could be because of the clottings. So, thrombocytopenia. Similarly, myocarditis, continuous chest pain from second, third day. And this, I think, 1 month period should be included because some people have the immune system responding a little late. After that, generally, you should be in the clear. But we are seeing that vaccine can cause injury that would percolate underneath and create inflammations. Generally, if you are clear there, what I have seen is in some patients, they develop that immediate reactions or side effects of the vaccine, then they become okay, then a month later they develop another bout of it. But usually within a couple of months, they know that I have a problem. I have not seen someone having issues, let's say 5 months after or 6 months after. It is usually within first couple of months. Barbara Warren says, hey Barbara and Lotus, I know firsthand about long COVID and don't want it again. That is true. Meanwhile, in America, says people are getting long COVID from Omicron too. Yes, it's not just 2020 long haulers. Yes. So Hannah says, is Bruce Petersons long hauler treatment protocol safe for people with inherited hypertrophic cardiomyopathy? This is a question that they should answer, because this is a specific condition. Inflammatory outcomes can put a burden on heart, but I do not know your heart's condition or somebody's heart's condition, their labs, um, their body state, are they hypertensive in addition or not, and so on. So this is a discussion to have with Patterson's group's doctors. So how's it going on the other channel? I'm so curious to go check the other channel. Renee McCoy says, why do you delete many of the comments? So there are two ways that comments disappear. And even a few days ago, my own comment disappeared. So that was actually funny, that I went in and I shared a link to YouTube, sorry, not to YouTube, to Dr. Bean's account, the discounted price for the drbean.com video. So I shared that and it, poof, it disappeared. It was there, I saw it, and then it disappeared. And that was YouTube took it away. So some of the um, comments are removed by YouTube. Why did YouTube decide that I had said something in there that was not nice? I don't know, but it just took away my own comment on my own channel, this channel. And then I posted it again and it stayed. So this is one. And the other one is when somebody is disrespectful in their discussions with each other, towards me, towards themselves, even, or when they are spamming again and again, or when they are taking the discussion in a totally different direction than the topic that we're discussing, then we normally request them to participate like good citizens. And if they don't, then we remove them. And I wanted to clarify this as well. Sometimes people say, well, when I protest the censorship, people respond to me and they say, you remove comments. So I want to discuss this, that just like I remove comment and somebody can say, why did you? Similarly, when YouTube removes a video, I have a right to say, why did you? However, I do not actually have a right to say YouTube should not. And that is because YouTube is a private company. And the private companies are allowed to have their rules and then implement them on their platforms. They are not public debate areas. And even in our country, at least in the US, we cannot just stand on the road and start debating in a group. You have to get the permission to do that. So freedom of expression is here, but you can't just take something and stand on the road and say, I have freedom of expression. There are rules and regulations for how, in a civilized manner, we can do it. Similarly, YouTube, as I was discussing in the beginning of this video, they have misinformation policies and others. So the channels themselves are guided by the umbrella of YouTube. And then the channels can decide within their own place. Imagine this is my home, this channel, and we are all sitting together in it. I can decide within my home what is civilized or not. And so when somebody continues to attack me, for example, or just take weird stances or calls names to others, to me, or disrupt from the basic teaching part of it, then it is my right to say, please go do this somewhere else, but not here. So the freedom of expression, I cannot stop them from doing what they're doing somewhere else, but I just stop them to say, don't do it in my home. And I give this example sometimes. You may not like this example because I don't think that um, you are upset. I think you just are curious. The example I give is that imagine if I have a friend who comes over, or a number of guests who are in my home, and then one of them decides to sit down on the dining table and poop there, and says, you know what, I am doing this because this is my expression and I have a freedom of expression. So I totally agree that they have a freedom of expression for expressing the way they want, but not within my property, not within my place. So that is how I think this structure is. I am pretty open. I actually sometimes show the comments where people are insulting me or attacking me, and I actually show them here on my screen and I discuss them. But sometimes it just is this way that some folks will, they just don't want to be here, and they are not adding to the value of the discussion, they are just attacking. This is true. So Anna says, funny thing about YouTube, it allows true crime channels, but lots of the words that define crime tip algorithms and get channels shut down. Yeah, it's so. Ruby says, could you review what is deleted to see if it deserves to be deleted? So I used to do that in the beginning. So some comments, YouTube holds them and asks me to review them. But there are so many thousands of comments. Number one. Number two, I will admit this, that when I go through comments that are held, a very few of them are actually useful. A majority is folks saying, I have this thanks to Dr. XYZ. He gave me this drug to cure my HIV. WhatsApp number this. So majority are those. And it's such a waste of time to go through thousands of comments to look at them and say, yeah, not interested. The second majority is the folks who are just spamming. Do you know COVID does not exist? Do you know RT-PCR is wrong? Have you ever seen COVID? So there are just so many. So even if I don't care that somebody says it exists or not, for me to go over thousands of comments and then filter them out and say, okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's all right, it just is a lot of hard work for me to do. Third category is where folks actually are insulting and they are attacking and they are sending me death threats or uh, doing stuff which you don't want to read those comments. And then going through those, I'll admit this, that it's not actually fun to read them. And I have to read them, hundreds of them, keep my balance, and then allow or delete. I just don't do it anymore. I used to, but then I found out that this is impossible, that everybody would like what I'm saying. I actually find it interesting that people actually get ticked off for my accent or color, which I never ever cared. I've been here in the US for decades now. I never cared. I never put myself, my kids sometimes when we discuss about racism or such things, I say, man, if you get trapped in this thought that people are just not going to like us because we have a different color or accent, then you'll always be trapped in that. And so I've never cared. But there are people who are upset about my accent, or they're upset about, they think I'm Indian, so they start calling names to India. A couple of days ago, there was a comment that was, this was a comment where a person said, can I please have some naan and chicken curry and those? So he thought I'm from India and he was trying to be funny or insult me by ordering food here. So I just do not have that temperament and time to go over thousands of such really rubbish bullshit comments and then say, please, this one out of 1000 looks okay. And this is very correct. Ghost said, there is racism in every country despite the common narrative. North America is very tolerant compared to many other. You are correct. There are the countries where I come from. We have 4 states, and one state has so much bias against other state, and people from one state have bias against the other one, and their biases are actually a little more pronounced than over here. Over here we have, at least we actively try that this does not happen. So you're correct. And because of this, I have actually never ever uh, tried to do this. This is very interesting. Dr. Sunil Dhand got censored by YouTube for American, and he will no longer post on his channel. Very interesting. Rajwan T. Robinson says, appreciate your generosity, braveness, bless. Thank you. And also, I want to make sure that when I teach here, I never have this eye of mine is bothering me. I have been poking it the whole day. So the I never have tried to create a community where we all are collectively just living in some conspiracy. And as ironic as it is that my COVID videos are not allowed on my own site, I had always wanted that we do medicine with these topics. That is, as a doctor, you don't take a leaning of right side or left side or pro vaccine or anti vaccine or mask or not mask and so on. You just look at science together. You could say this that in my bias, I don't talk about 5G as being dangerous. I just do not have that thing as something fair to discuss. It may be for some people. Or there is magnet in the place of vaccine. I don't think that that is a correct medical concept. And if it is for someone else, it is not for me. So I do have my own biases and filters. I usually disclose them. I don't see a color, Maggie says, or hear an accent, but cool beans do perceive a truly beautiful soul. Thank you very much. And I have never felt that, I have never ever tried to be in that way, in that state. Meeple Art says, how will you determine topics for your new channel chats? Could we all have input? Yes. So, Meeple Art, thank you very much. I'm, tr- I'm actually trying to figure out for the main set of topics, I request patrons to help me with those prioritizations. But for the chit chats, there should be one theme every day for the chit chat so that at least we have a focused discussion. And yes, it would be great, Meeple Art, if that can be done. Paul Berg says, one might wonder if these complaining about accents can speak more than one language. Yes, that is correct. So, did Dr. Dhand decide himself to close it, or did YouTube just said you cannot talk anymore? So, Alexander says good night, and it is 8 o'clock here as well. So, I would beg leave from both YouTube channels. Um, so, please have this second channel's link with you tomorrow when we discuss. I think we have a midday discussion with Dr. Mark A. Levitt. So we'll have our discussion there. Then in the evening, I will see, probably we'll just do a chit chat tomorrow. It's a Friday evening. And we are missing our Zoom call for some days. So maybe we should do a Zoom call as well. And if we do a chit chat, we'll do it on the other YouTube channel. Slowly, we will tiptoe towards Rumble and Odyssey with figuring out the technology. So, with this one, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your time on both channels. And stay safe, happy, and healthy. I will see you tomorrow. There is a link in the description for buying DrBeen account. And just check out the price. If you are not shocked by the how low that price is, then you can complain. But check out the price. And then there are other links as well. If you would like to support this as a patron or want to buy me a coffee or use PayPal, you can do that too. And of course, like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you tomorrow, midday, for Dr. Levitt's discussion, and then in the evening, chit chat on the second YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Bye bye.